Have you ever been surrounded by people, laughing, smiling, posting selfies, and still felt like something was missing? Like you were speaking into a void, even as voices echoed all around you? It's a strange kind of silence, isn't it? The silence that lives beneath surface conversations, the hollowness behind shared memes and polite replies. In today's world, we are more connected than ever before. Notifications ring out like church bells, likes come in waves, texts pile up like leaves in autumn. But amid all that noise, how many of us feel truly seen, truly known, not just followed, but understood? What if I told you that you could have thousands of followers and still feel invisible? That being the life of the party can feel lonelier than being alone? And that what you're craving isn't attention, it's intimacy. Not exposure, but essence. You see, the Stoics, those ancient minds who walked through empires and exiles, knew something we've forgotten, that the quality of your relationships defines the texture of your soul. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, once wrote, "The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts." I would offer this addition. It also depends on the quality of the people you share those thoughts with. Because what good is wisdom if you're afraid to speak it? What good is strength if there's no one to be soft with? And what good is a heart that beats if it beats completely alone? Today's video is not about social strategies or clever tricks to get people to like you. This is about connection, the kind that roots you, grounds you, and makes you feel human again. The kind of bond that doesn't require words because it exists in presence. It's about rediscovering the art of being deeply with others without losing yourself in the process. This conversation might challenge you. It might pull you inward into the uncomfortable but necessary question: am I connected or just surrounded? And in that honest pause, everything can begin to change. So if you're tired of shallow exchanges and thirsty for something deeper, if you've ever wondered why the ones you laugh with don't always stay when you cry, this is your moment. We'll walk through the illusions, the truths, and the unspoken laws of meaningful connection. And in the quiet wisdom of Stoicism, we'll uncover how to create bonds that not only comfort, but elevate. If this resonates, I invite you, gently, to like this video, subscribe to Stoic now, and share it with someone who feels the same hunger for depth. Because sometimes, all it takes is one real connection to come back to life. Now take a breath, and let's begin. Number 1. Dismantle the belief that popularity equals connection. It's easy to confuse being noticed with being known. In a world lit by screens and shaped by algorithms, visibility has become our currency. The more eyes you gather, the more valuable you appear. We're taught to believe that popularity is proof of our worth, that if others are watching, we must be doing something right. But what if that very belief is what's starving us? I once knew a man, let's call him Jordan. Sharp mind, golden smile, magnetic in every room he entered. Online, he was followed by thousands, liked by tens of thousands, admired by faces he had never seen and hearts he had never touched. His stories made people laugh. His images glowed with charm. Yet when his father died, do you know how many showed up at the funeral? 2. His mother, and a distant cousin who lived 3 towns away. He told me later, "I've never felt emptier than in that moment, when I realized I could make 1,000,000 people laugh, but not one of them knew when I was breaking." This is the trap. We chase recognition, hoping it will fill the void. We stand under the spotlight, thinking it will warm our cold places. But attention is not affection. Exposure is not intimacy. Being seen is not the same as being known. Stoicism teaches us that external validation is fleeting, unreliable, and often deceptive. Epictetus warned, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Not because he wanted us to be invisible, but because he wanted us to be free. Free from the need to impress. Free from the addiction to applause. Free from the illusion that external approval will ever satisfy the hunger within. And yet, we're human. We ache to be valued. We long to be affirmed. So we post more, perform harder, and package ourselves into digital versions we barely recognize, hoping someone, anyone, will reach through the screen and see the real us. But the truth is, no one can see what you refuse to show, and no one will care deeply if all you ever offer them is a carefully edited mask. This is where the path of real connection begins, in daring to step out of performance and into presence. in recognizing that what we truly crave isn't visibility, it's resonance. We want someone to say, "I see you," not the version you present, not the image you curate, but you, the messy, tender, complicated soul beneath it all. But that kind of connection demands something that popularity never will: vulnerability, stillness, courage, the willingness to stand in your truth even when no one is clapping. Especially then, there's nothing wrong with being liked, or being admired, or celebrated. But if that becomes the measure of your self-worth, you've handed your piece to the crowd, and the crowd is fickle. Today they cheer. Tomorrow they scroll past you like you never mattered. What the Stoics remind us is that meaning is never found in the echo of others' praise. It's found in the integrity of our relationships, those few, sacred bonds where we are loved not for how well we perform, but for how fully we show up. And showing up, that's not glamorous. It doesn't always look good on camera. It means answering the phone when your friend is crying. It means listening without fixing. It means choosing a real conversation over the rush of a viral post. True connection is not convenient. It is cultivated. And ironically, the more you invest in the depth of your connections, the less you care about their breadth. Because once you are truly known, truly held, truly seen, by even one person, the need to be adored by strangers dissolves like smoke. Jordan eventually found his way out of the spotlight. He stopped posting daily. He stopped checking his likes. He started spending Sunday mornings in quiet places with people who knew his middle name and his mother's birthday. And one day he told me, "I used to live for attention. Now I live for the kind of conversations that make me forget my phone exists." He didn't vanish. He just stopped needing to be everywhere. And in doing so, he finally arrived, fully, in his own life. You don't have to give up everything to find connection. You just have to stop trading authenticity for applause. Because you can't be loved if you're not known. You can't be known if you're not honest. And you can't be honest if you're still trying to perform. Seneca once said, "What progress, you ask, have I made? I have begun to be a friend to myself." And maybe that's where we start. Not with trying to get others to connect with us, but by learning to connect with ourselves again, beyond the noise, beyond the numbers, beyond the need to be more than we already are. When that connection is restored, every other one becomes possible. Number 2, the core of real connection: show up with depth. Connection is not built on the surface. It lives in the shadows, in the pauses between words, in the spaces where two souls meet without pretense. And yet, most of us have been taught to fear that space, to fill it with noise, to polish our edges, shrink our truth, and present only what we think others want to see. But real connection doesn't blossom through performance. It flourishes through presence, through the kind of attention that says, "I'm here, fully, not halfway, not distracted, not waiting for my turn to speak, just here." Presence is the foundation, and it's rare. Because in a world of constant notifications and ever-shortening attention spans, offering someone your full presence has become an act of sacred rebellion. It's saying, "For this moment, you are enough to hold all my focus. For this moment, I will not escape into my mind, my phone, or my fear." Presence is powerful, but it's just the beginning. To show up with depth also means we must risk being seen, not the filtered version, but the full, unpolished truth. This is vulnerability, not oversharing, not dramatizing, but the quiet courage to let someone witness your doubt, your pain, your joy without wrapping it in explanation. There is a strength in saying, "I don't have it all figured out," or "This matters to me more than I let on." That kind of honesty is magnetic, not because it's flashy, but because it's real. In a sea of guarded hearts, sincerity stands out like a lighthouse in the fog. We often think vulnerability makes us weak. But if we're honest, isn't it far harder to admit you're afraid than to pretend you're strong? Isn't it more courageous to tell someone what truly moves you than to hide behind sarcasm or silence? Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And nowhere is that truer than in relationships. We imagine rejection before it happens. We fear judgment before anyone has spoken. And in doing so, we rob ourselves of the very intimacy we crave. The only way through is curiosity. Deep, intentional curiosity. Not just asking, "How was your day?" but "What made you feel alive this week?" Not just "What do you do?" but "What do you care about when no one is watching?" Questions like these open doors. They dissolve walls. Because when you ask someone to show you who they really are, and you actually listen, they begin to feel safe. And safety is the soil where connection grows. I remember once asking a friend, out of nowhere, "What's something you wish more people asked you about?" He paused for a long time. Then he said, "My mom. She passed 3 years ago, and everyone stopped mentioning her like she never existed." That conversation lasted 3 hours. And to this day, it remains one of the most human moments I've ever experienced. People don't need you to fix them. They need you to notice them. And you can only notice what you make space for. Presence, vulnerability, curiosity, these are not techniques. They are states of being. They are choices we make every time we sit across from someone and decide whether to connect or to protect. But here's the beautiful part. When you choose to show up deeply, it often invites the other person to do the same. Depth calls to depth. When you go first, you create a sacred permission for others to be real, too. This is how you become unforgettable, not by impressing people, but by seeing them. Not by being everything, but by being fully yourself. Epictetus once said, "It is not events that disturb people, it is their judgments concerning them." In relationships, the same is true. It is not people's truth that scares us. It's our fear of what their truth might reveal about us. But when we choose to listen without armor, to ask without agenda, to speak without fear, what we create is rare and real and lasting. You don't need perfect words. You don't need rehearsed lines. You just need to bring the part of you that's most alive, the part of you that's honest and brave and human. That's the version of you the world is starving to meet. And when you show up like that, fully present, vulnerably honest, and wildly curious, you don't just connect. You create belonging. Number 3, the silent energy of integrity. There's a kind of power that doesn't raise its voice. A quiet presence that enters a room and shifts the atmosphere. Not with charisma, not with charm, but with something deeper, something unshakable. It's the presence of someone who is aligned. Someone whose actions match their values, even when no one's watching. That's integrity. And in a world obsessed with optics, it's become the rarest kind of magnetism. We often think of connection as something we build through words, through conversation, shared stories, eye contact. And yes, all of those matter. But none of them can substitute for the deep resonance created when someone simply lives truthfully. When there's no hidden agenda, no performance, no contradiction between what's said and what's lived. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." That's the essence of this energy. Stop trying to impress others. Become someone your soul respects. That shift, that internal alignment, is felt by everyone around you even if they can't explain it. Have you ever met someone whose presence calmed you, even without saying a word? Someone who didn't flatter, didn't posture, didn't try to win you over, but still, you found yourself drawn to them? That's the energy of someone at peace with themselves. Someone who doesn't need your approval because they already walk in alignment with their values. This kind of presence is not loud, but it is undeniable, and it's built in the quiet, in the decisions you make when no one sees, in how you speak about people when they're not around, in the way you treat the vulnerable when there's no one to reward you for your kindness. Integrity doesn't mean perfection. It means consistency. It means when your words say love, your actions don't betray hate. It means when you promise, you follow through. When you fail, you admit it. When you hurt someone, you make it right, not for performance, but for peace. You see, the reason integrity creates such deep connection is because it breeds trust. And trust is the foundation of everything lasting. Without it, no amount of charisma can sustain a bond. But with it, even silence can feel like safety. People may not remember everything you say, but they'll never forget how safe or unsafe they felt around you. And that feeling is shaped by the invisible thread of your integrity. Seneca reminded us, "The greatest wealth is a poverty of desires." When you're not ruled by your image, when you don't need to chase praise or applause, you're free to live from your core. That's where true power is, not in being the loudest voice, but the most grounded. Here's the paradox. When you stop trying to be impressive, you become influential. When you stop seeking attention, your authenticity draws others in. Why? Because we're starving for something real. In a culture flooded with facades, authenticity feels like oxygen. And authenticity without integrity is just another performance. True integrity means you're the same person in the light as in the dark. It means people can trust not just what you say, but who you are. I remember once speaking with an old mentor. He wasn't flashy. He didn't wear expensive clothes or dominate conversations. But whenever he spoke, people leaned in. And whenever he sat in silence, no one rushed to fill the gap. He told me, the less you lie to yourself, the more others will feel safe around you. That stayed with me. Because integrity isn't just about how we relate to others. It begins with how we relate to ourselves. You can't offer truth to someone else if you're still running from it inside you. That's the Stoic way, not suppressing emotions, but aligning life with principle. Not pretending, but practicing. Not demanding others trust you, but living in such a way they feel they can. So ask yourself, not with judgment, but with honesty, do my actions reflect my values? Do I speak with the same voice I use when I'm alone? Would I still be proud of who I am if no one ever praised me again? These questions aren't easy, but they're essential, because connection is not built on your smile or your words. It's built on the quiet weight of your presence. And presence built on integrity? That's unshakable. When you live aligned, you don't have to convince people you're worth connecting with. They'll feel it, deeply, quietly, instinctively. That's the kind of person the world longs to be near. Not because they're perfect, but because they're real. Number 4, the art of detachment. We spend so much of our lives trying to be unforgettable. We dress a certain way, speak with just enough edge, craft messages we hope will echo in someone's memory. We grip tightly to people, to moments, to the image of ourselves we think they might need us to be, hoping that if we just try hard enough, we won't be left behind. But what if the secret to being remembered is letting go? There is a strange and powerful beauty in detachment, not the kind that comes from apathy or withdrawal, but the kind born of inner fullness. The kind of detachment that says, I do not need you to need me in order to know my worth. It's not cold. It's not indifferent. In fact, it might be the warmest, most loving act of all, to love someone enough to release the grip, to care deeply and still not cling, to be fully present with someone without losing yourself in the process. Marcus Aurelius captured it simply. Receive without pride, let go without attachment. That is the Stoic way, not emotionless, but emotionally free, not distant, but unchained. The art of detachment teaches us to hold people with open hands, not clenched fists, to understand that we cannot possess another human soul, not through control, not through performance, not even through love. Because true connection doesn't grow from need, it grows from freedom. And freedom only comes when we stop trying to make people stay and instead invite them to be fully themselves, knowing that we can be whole with or without their presence. This idea terrifies most of us. We think, if I stop trying, they'll forget me. If I stop giving, they'll leave. But consider this. When has begging ever led to respect? When has chasing ever created depth? The paradox is this. When you let go of needing someone to remember you, they do. Because there's nothing more memorable than someone who is at peace with themselves, who walks away with grace, not resentment, who doesn't demand to be needed, but chooses to give freely and then return to their center. That's the energy that lingers long after you're gone. I once knew a woman who loved deeply but held loosely. She gave her time, her presence, her wisdom. And when people pulled away, busy, distracted, unsure, she didn't chase. She smiled gently and said, everyone returns when they're ready. And if they don't, it's because the season has passed. I still carry the beauty of it with me. There was no bitterness in her voice, only clarity. And strangely, people always came back. Not because she asked them to, but because they remembered how it felt to be with someone who didn't try to possess them. She became a sanctuary, not a cage. Detachment does not mean you stop loving. It means you love without losing yourself. It means your sense of worth doesn't swing on the pendulum of someone else's attention. It means that even if someone forgets to reply, even if someone leaves your life, you remain centered, whole, rooted. Epictetus reminds us, you are a little soul carrying around a corpse. In other words, life is brief, bodies are frail, moments slip away. So why waste energy gripping what cannot be held? This applies not just to people, but to expectations, to outcomes, to the idea that we must always be remembered to matter. The most powerful people I've met are the ones who give freely, love deeply, and walk away quietly when their time is up, not because they don't care, but because they trust. They trust that the right people will stay, that the right energy always returns, that their value is not something others give them, but something they already carry. So if you've been grasping, if you've been performing, pleasing, proving, pause. Ask yourself, what would it feel like to stop chasing? To start being? To show up, love well, speak truth, and then let go? Not out of bitterness, not as a strategy, but as a quiet declaration, I am enough. Even if you forget me. That energy, it haunts people in the best way. It's the echo of your presence in a room you no longer stand in. It's the memory of your peace when they finally meet noise again. It's the contrast between you and everything they thought they wanted. And that contrast is unforgettable, not because you forced it, but because you finally trusted that you don't need to be remembered to matter. The echo of meaningful connections. At the end of this journey, what are we left with? Not instructions, not a formula, but a memory, a quiet echo. The echo of what it means to be truly seen. To no longer chase applause, but to sit in stillness and recognize, I am enough, even when no one claps, even when no one stays, even when all the noise fades and I am left with only myself. And maybe, just maybe, that is the beginning of real connection. Not when we are most impressive, but when we are most real. We have been taught all our lives to accumulate connection like possessions. The more friends, the better. The more attention, the more valuable we must be. But that pursuit leaves us hollow, performing for the eyes of others while our hearts go untouched. The Stoics teach us that all that is external is fleeting, and that includes admiration, affection, even relationships. But that doesn't make connection meaningless. It makes it sacred, fragile, worth doing slowly, truthfully, and with great care. True connection is not about the number of people in the room. It's about the depth of the silence between two souls who are not trying to impress, but simply to understand. It's the friend who doesn't need words to feel your sadness. It's the partner who holds your truth even when it's ugly. It's the stranger who looks into your eyes and sees not a label, not a role, but a fellow human being. These moments do not come from cleverness. They come from presence, from the courage to show up fully and let the mask fall away, from integrity that says, I will not sell myself for approval. I will not become a mirror just to be liked. I will be myself, whole, quiet, and clear. And in that clarity, others will see themselves. That is the gift you offer the world when you choose connection over performance. Marcus Aurelius once said, when you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. And I would add, to connect, not with everyone, but with someone, even if that someone is just yourself. So if something in this message has stirred your heart, if it reminded you of someone or of a part of yourself you've neglected, don't let the moment pass. Send that message. Make that call. Sit in stillness with someone and ask them what's really going on. Or maybe, just sit in stillness with yourself and ask, am I present? Am I true? Am I living like someone I would want to connect with? This isn't the kind of video you save and forget. It's one you return to when you need grounding, when the noise gets too loud, when you feel alone, even surrounded. Because you're not alone. You never were. The capacity for depth, for intimacy, for truth, it has always lived inside you. You just needed to remember. If this video has reminded you, even for a moment, of your depth, please take a second to share it. Maybe someone else is on the edge of forgetting too. And if you'd like more of this kind of reflection, of soft strength and honest thought, subscribe to this channel, Stoic Now. We're building something here, not a following, but a fellowship. And if you feel like leaving a comment, I'd love to know, what does real connection mean to you? Not as a concept, but as something you've felt or longed to feel. Until then, go gently, speak truly, and remember, you don't have to be loud to be heard. You just have to be real, because the soul knows the difference.